Before I begin, I want to offer my thanks to everyone that let me know that I wasn't going crazy, and that the song I heard at the beginning of SukaSuka episode 1 was actually something I have heard before. And I'm just very thankful for all of you that answered my question and let me know in the comments below. Just thank you very much, and I do appreciate that. So once again, thank you. So, with that being said, SukaSuka episode 2 is here. And we can already see some feels that are going to be probably hitting us in the face very soon because of the way this episode was done. It's very obvious by this point in this episode that there is probably going to be a few deaths in the series. I can definitely see some members of our cast dying in the future, and I'm starting to see why maybe this was getting recommended to me so much because of the way the story has been written thus far. So let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty. So from what we found out with this episode is that all the children, they are weapons, which we kind of found out in last week's episode, but we get a little bit more details with this week's episode. Besides them just being weapons, there's a little bit more to that actual term and why they're applied as, you know, weapons. The reason is that these leprechauns are not actually, you know, human beings. These leprechauns are able to use weapons that were made a long time ago that were only able to be wielded by humanity, and they were used to take down like the 17 Beast or whatever, and only, you know, humanity could use those weapons. But thankfully, since leprechauns are like fairies in mythology that have taken on the form of humanity for a very long time, these leprechauns can use the same weapons that humanity used such a long time ago. So this allows them to be weapons, but it doesn't just end there. Apparently, the way they have been designed, or the way they were raised, these children that are weapons, they do not fear death, or they don't really care at all. They're very indifferent to death. It doesn't really bug them overall. They might want to make memories or whatever, but overall, they're willing to die. They don't really care overall. If they die, they die. If they get injured, they get injured. They really are very indifferent to that overall concept, which is very clear in this episode. It makes it very clear when you see these group of kids, they're just sitting there playing games and all that with each other, and you have our main character, he's just sitting back enjoying, you know, the atmosphere, the air, everything. He's just enjoying everything going on. It's a very peaceful time, and then all of a sudden he sees one of the children chase after a ball, and the ball falls off the side of the ledge. The kid obviously just walks over and falls off the ledge, which that's not good at all. Like, that's a serious injury that can happen there. You could probably break your neck or something. Obviously, you know, the main character, he got very shocked. He ran over and all that. When he got down there, the child had blood just coming down the face, all that, her face. And it was a very horrible injury from what you could see, but the kid didn't really care. The way the kid was, you know, reacting to the entire situation was like, oh, you know, I got the ball and all that, it's okay. Not even caring that, you know, that's a bad injury or blood's coming all down your face. Even the children up on top of the cliff, they didn't really care much at all. They were like, hey, you got the ball, come on up and all that. And the main character, he's just like, what the fuck is going on here? And he doesn't freak out a lot and just start, you know, yelling at the kid and all that, lecturing the kid, which that's what really surprised me. And I'll get into that in a moment. But overall, from what he found out is that these kids, the way they've been raised, especially at a young age, because that was a very young kid, they don't care. If they get injured, they get injured. If they die, they die. They don't care. So they're perfect weapons, and because they don't really care about death, they're able to draw out the power of these weapons that humanity was able to use, and it makes like a big explosion, which is kind of like they're just like a suicidal bomb. That's basically what they turn into, and it's very fucked up when you see that in the way it was, you know, these children just don't care about it, and how one of our main female characters, she's willing to do that in the next couple days, which probably references the first part of the first episode of SukaSuka that we saw last week. You remember the entire flash forward when we saw, you know, the actual main female character, it looked like she committed suicide or something? We most likely now know the reason. She is going to try to kill herself and, you know, blow up before she can take out one of the 17 beasts that are going to be coming up to one of the floating islands. It makes a little bit more sense now, so we got clarification. Now, there is something I do want to talk about, which is the main character, and that is what really got my attention with this episode. The overall concept of, you know, human weapons, or, you know, creatures that look like humanity, and, you know, they are just, you know, they don't care about death, or they don't care about their own life, or whatever, that's a common concept I see a lot in other series. So, even though it's kind of shocking, or the way it was done, overall, it's something I've seen before. It's nothing too original. However, what I really like about this episode was the main male character and his overall reaction to what was going on around him. Normally in this type of series, when you have a main character that, finds out that these, group of people, they are, they don't care about themselves, they don't care about anyone's well-being or whatever, they're just very different. Normally the main character freaks out, tries to give a lecture to, the individual, and then the character just starts questioning everything, he treats them differently, just a lot of things change, and the character just gets very dramatic. And the way the main male character of this series, he didn't act like that. He didn't act like the typical fashion you would see from a main male character. He kind of just he disagreed. You could see he was kind of negative about it, but he didn't try to stop it in any way. I mean, he's probably going to eventually come to the point where he's going to try to stop it, but overall, he didn't try to freak out the children. He didn't try to say, why are you doing this? Because it's obvious. They were raised from a very young age to be like this, and it clicked in his head, they're the perfect weapon, and he actually recognizes that. He even admits they're the perfect weapon. So, the main character, his reaction to everything in this episode, that's what won the episode for me. He felt like a character that understands. He actually picked up on everything quickly, and he wasn't trying to start, melodrama and be very dramatic throughout the episode, and then, have an entire scene where the little girls are like, oh, why are you getting all, upset and all that, freaking out, and then, all the girls would start questioning him. I really liked the way that was handled in this episode, how he just didn't try to confront all of them at once and say, your life matters and all that, he just accepted and realized what was happening here. So just job well done, SukaSuka. So, besides all of this, though, we also have the fact that there is a little bit of implied fan service towards the end of the episode, and even though you could kind of get, some lewd, I guess, thoughts from the final part of this episode, overall, for this to be a light novel series and have, girls around our main character, I'm surprised with how tame this series is in terms of fan service, because normally light novel series, they really love to give you that fan service and all that boob jiggles and all that, but this series is not doing that, so also compliments to this series. I'm glad it doesn't have so much fan service that it becomes distracting to where it just, disconnects us from what's really important from an episode. Sometimes fan service can be okay, but if it distracts from the main point of the series, that's when I have a problem with the series. So, job well done once again on that front as well, to SukaSuka. So yeah, episode 2, it's a good episode. There is some things about it that still have that cliche about it, but because of the execution of the main character, what he was doing, I'm willing to accept some of the things I saw in this episode, and it is going down a good path with, its writing. So so far, I'm satisfied. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I really like what I have been seeing, and I do see and understand now why it has been recommended to me, but I'm just kind of curious to see how dark this series is going to get because of all the setup throughout this episode. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.